Today we're going to be doing Module 3, Lesson 14, Ordered Pairs. I also have it noted as coordinate plane. You are going to learn some more details about the coordinate plane. Some of you may have had some experiences in earlier grades with the coordinate plane, and we will talk more about that later. A coordinate plane is a group of lines, basically, that are all put together. That are numbered that allow you to find exact locations of something. This first line, this vertical line, we call that our y-axis. The horizontal line, this is our x-axis. So anytime we're looking at numbers going across, whether they're positive or negative, those are our x numbers. And the numbers that go up and down, our vertical numbers, are our y numbers. Each section of the coordinate plane has a special name. This first top right section is quadrant 1, noted with a capital I for the number 1. To the left of that is quadrant 2, noted with 2 capital I's because we count this in with Roman numerals. The bottom left is quadrant 3 with 3 capital I's. And then finally is quadrant 4. And that is capital I, capital V. The next thing I want to point out to you is this point right here. I'm going to zoom in on that, where the axes meet up at that 0. And that is called the origin. O-R-I-G-I-N. So at the 0 where each axis comes together, that's called the origin. And it is noted as 0, 0. We're going to now talk about the definition of, sorry about that, guys, of ordered pairs, because that's what today's lesson is mostly about. The definition of an ordered pair, or the job of an ordered pair, is to tell the exact location of a point on a coordinate plane. Sorry about that. Each one of the numbers that gives you the location has a job. There are 2 reference points in an ordered pair. The first number is called the x coordinate. And the x coordinate gives you your horizontal number. Then you have a y coordinate. and that gives you your vertical number. So for example, it would look like this when you see it written as an ordered pair. Each number in an ordered pair is called a coordinate. And the most important thing for you to remember is that X is always first. Now, before we move on to our math lesson in Eureka, I want to just point out a few things to you up here back to the coordinate plane now that we've talked about ordered pairs. In quadrant 1, your ordered pairs will always be positive and positive. Both of those numbers will always be positive. In quadrant 2, your first number will be negative and your second number will be positive. In quadrant 3, both numbers will be negative. And in quadrant 4, your first number will be positive and your second number will be negative. So that will help you easier, it will be easier for you to locate numbers quickly if you will memorize what types of numbers go in each quadrant. If you haven't had a chance to get everything written down, if I went too fast, feel free to pause here and rewind and go back and re-listen to things. If you're ready to move on, go ahead and get out your student materials. And we are looking at lesson 14, ordered pairs. So in this opening work here, for example 1, it says the order in ordered pairs. The first number in an ordered pair is called the X coordinate. The second number in an ordered pair is called the Y coordinate. So an ordered pair would look like this, X comma Y, and would be written inside parentheses. So anytime you see two numbers with a comma between them and in between parentheses, that is an ordered pair. And your most important thing is X is always first. Always first. For example 2, I want you to consider this scenario. It says the seats in a football stadium are arranged into 210 sections with 144 seats in each section. Your ticket to the game indicates the number for your seat using a set of ordered pairs, 123, 37. Describe the meaning of each number and how you would use them to find your seat. So I want you to pause your video right here, and I want you to just think on this for a minute. And then when you're done, I want you to unpause your video and check your thinking against the results that I give you. Okay, so you should have said that in the ordered pair, 123,37. The 123 is the x coordinate. And 37 is the y coordinate. $123 represents the section, because if you go back into your reading, you can see that it had sections first and then that comma. So that tells me that that's the x. And then the 144 is the seat. If you didn't get that understanding, then come see me and let's work through a couple more scenarios together so that you can get in that practice. If you're ready to move on, then let's go ahead and go to the next page. We're going to look at exercise 1. In exercise 1, it says the first coordinates of ordered pairs represent numbers on the line labeled x, and the second coordinates represent numbers on the line labeled y. Name the letters from the grid below that corresponds with each ordered pair of numbers. So I'm going to try to zoom in on this a little bit. So we're going to take a look at A first. Remember, my first number is my x number. My second number is my y number. So my first number is 1. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my x line. You can see the x here. And I'm going to find the number 1. And then my y number is 4. So since it's positive, I'm going to count up to number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can see that that number, or that letter, is F. So I labeled this F. Now I want you to try B on your own really quick. Okay, you should have remembered that the first number was your x, your second number is your y. So my first number, if I go on my x line, I have to find that 0. That 0 sits on that y line. That's okay. And then my y number is positive 5, so I count at 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I can see that that is A. Now, before I go on and have you practice any more on your own, I want you to take a look at D. If you will notice in D, that x coordinate has a decimal in it, 8.5. If you remember back to your work that you've done with decimals, you know that 0.5 means half. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to my x line, and I'm going to go to 8, but it's half. So I have to go between that 8 and the 9. So I'm going to go right in the middle, and then I'm going to go up 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I can see that that point is L. Now I want you to finish up C, E, F, G, and H, and then come back and check your answers. Okay, for C, you should have gotten B. For E, you should have gotten G. For F, you should have gotten H. For 8, you should have gotten, or for G, you should have gotten C. And for H, you should have gotten E. Now we're going to go down below. On number 2, it says list the ordered pair numbers with the that corresponds with each letter from the grid below. So for A, I'm looking for point M. So I find point M. It's right here. I'm going to circle it. And I have to write that ordered pair. So I know I'm going to have parentheses and a comma. Remember, my very first number is going to be my X number. So I'm going to go to the X line, and I'm going to look for the number that lines up with this M. So I can start with the M and go straight down, and I can see that that's a 5. So then my first number in my ordered pair is a 5. And then I go back to my point M, and I'm going to go over to my Y number because my Y number is next. And I can see that that's a 7. So then my ordered pair is 5, 7. I want you to go ahead and let's go ahead and do B together first. Point S. So I'm going to find point S. The first thing I'm going to do is go straight down and look for my X number. I can see this time it's negative. -2. And then I'm going to go over. This time I'm going to the right. And I can see that that is 3. So it's -2, 3. Go ahead and do C, D, E, F, D, H, and I, and then come back and check your answers. Okay, so let's check your answers now. For point C, you should have had 6, 0. For point D, for D, you should have had -3, 2. For E, you should have had 0, 6. For F, you should have had 7, 5. For G, you should have had 2, 3. For H, you should have had -1, 6. And for I, you should have had 0, 3. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and move on to the assignment for today. In today's assignment, you are going to be working through the problem set. In the problem set for number 1, it says use the set of ordered pairs below to answer each question. So you're going to use these ordered pairs here to answer A, B, and C. So for A, it says write the ordered pair or pairs whose first and second coordinates have the greatest common factor of 3. So remember, to find the greatest common factor, you have to list out the factors of numbers. And you're going to be looking at the whose first and second coordinate. Sorry, I'm having some issues with the lead in my pencil. So if I look at this first number here, this first set of ordered pairs, it's 4 and 20. Well, I know that 3 is not a factor of 4 or 20, so that one wouldn't work. Let me find one that would work just so I could give you an example. Let's take a look at 15, 3. We're going to put no above this one. So I'm going to think, is there anything that I can multiply by 3 to get the answer 15? I can do 3 times 5. And for 3, I would do 3 times 1. Since 3 and 1 are the only factors of 3, I know that 3 would be the greatest common factor of both of those. So one of my answers for A would be 15, 3. For part B, you're going to write the ordered pairs whose first coordinate is a factor of its second coordinate. Again, remember, factors are numbers that you multiply together to get a product. For C, it says write the ordered pairs whose second coordinate is a prime number. Remember that prime numbers are numbers that only have factors of 1 in itself. So A, B, and C are review of greatest common factors, and as well as prime numbers. For question 2, it says write ordered pairs that represent the location of points A, B, C, and D. So A, B, C, D, and you're going to write those as ordered pairs. So you're going to give me all of those points. Remember that you label them as X, Y numbers. So make sure that you're using your horizontal number before you're using your vertical number. And if you flip that over onto the back, you're going to complete the exit ticket. You're going to do all of the exit ticket. On number 1, they're referring to this grid here. They're calling it a map. And then on question 2, they're using this same map. It's really hard to read this. This is the fire department. And this is the hospital. For those of you who are having a difficult time reading those words. So make sure you complete that. Make sure your name is on both sides and turn that into the tray when you're finished. If you have any questions, feel free to come see me.